Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Rob. This is RH Midwest Comics, and it's time for another price update. This time, we're going back to the Silver Age. And if you've watched my channel before, you know I do this every month, but I alternate between Bronze Age and Silver Age. Last month, I did Bronze Age. This month, I'm going back to Silver Age, which means we always have 2 months of data to catch up on. And we're going to take a look at the 6 books I've been doing for about a year now, the 6 biggest Marvel keys from the Silver Age. And I've got a surprise. I've added a 7th book. Yes, finally, after a very long time, I've added a new key issue that we're doing a full price analysis on, but I'm going to do it at the end of the video. So we're going to go through the 6 books I've been doing for the past year or so, and then we're going to get into the new one, all right? So let's get into it. You know how this works. I use GPA data, and it's all Blue Label universal data. So no restored purple label data, no green qualified data or conserved data, nothing like that. All universal Blue Label. And the price analysis goes from the beginning of 2020 up to our most recent month, which was July of 2024, now that we're into August. And the grades that I include are the ones that had at least one sale in 2020 and at least one sale in either June or July. So any of the past 2 months, because if we take grades that haven't had a sale in 6 months, can be misleading, right? Because the market changes a lot. So that's how we do it. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Again, we're going to go through the 6 books I've been doing for a while now, and then we're going to get into the new one. All right, first up, Amazing Spider-Man #1. So again, the way I show the chart is all the way up through the last data point that we did in this video, which was the May data point. You can see over here on the right-hand side, May of 2024. And this is the average of all the grades that have sold. Okay, so all these trends look the same for anyone that hasn't seen these videos before, right? The trends go up and they skyrocket up through COVID, and then huge correction, okay? And when we left off, last data point in May, the average price of all the grades was $13,670. What happened in June and July? Does the downward trend continue on this book? Here we go. June came in, big drop. Again, massive drop for Spider-Man #1. All right, so that was June. And then July, another drop. Not quite as severe, but regardless, another drop. The average price dropping by over $2,000 to $11,360. That is down 17% since May. So this book continues to just fall. And I think I've said this before. This is a great book, but it is not a huge key in terms of any first appearances or any kind of storyline, anything like that, right? I think J. Jonah Jameson and the Chameleon are the biggest first appearances in this book, but it's still a great book nonetheless. But I can understand why this one is dropping. It just doesn't have a ton of critical storyline or introductions going for it. Okay, so you know what I like to do after this? I like to show how the book is done, even though it's dropped 17% in the past 2 months. I like to show how it's done since 2020, before all the madness started. And the way it's gone on these books is, even though they've had these huge price corrections, it's still been up 50%, 100%. When I first started doing these, even though corrections had started, the book was still up like 200%. Well, that's been chipped away at on all these books month over month. So again, how has this book done since 2020? That first data point way over on the left. Well, kind of crazy. It's actually down 1% in 4.5 years since we've been tracking this. So, but here's what I'm going to do, because when you look at it, the starting point in January of 2020 was up here, and then it quickly dropped down. So I think it's fair to say, why don't we do the comparison based on the low point near the beginning of 2020? And if we look at it that way, the book is still up 15% from that low point to where we ended on our last data point in July here. So regardless, even though the book is still up, a 15% gain over 4.5 years with the price still dropping and no end in sight should be a little bit concerning. Should be. So I don't know. Maybe this book was overpriced to begin with, like I said, because right, it's yes, it's a key issue, but why is it really a key other than the first issue of an ongoing series? So, all right, that's Spider-Man #1. Not a good story. Here's the other thing I like to do. I like to show how all the individual grades do because the average price of all the grades combined can be a little misleading. So here are the grades that were included. Again, these are all the grades that sold over the past 2 months. And you can see it's kind of split. 8 grades in total. 1, 2, 3, 5 went down. 3 of them had increases, but you see the ones that had decreases, very significant. All double digits, and a few of them, over 20%, over 30%. So that's why we're seeing the big decreases. A lot of these grades are dropping hard. All right, so I'm doing this with every book, showing you the price change, just because I think it's good to see the spread, right? Again, averages can be misleading. So that's ASM #1. Hulk #1, the rarest of the Marvel Silver Age books. This, on the census count, the CGC census count, it is the lowest by far. I think Fantastic Four #1 is the next rarest, so to speak. All right, but here's the trend, same trend that we'll see on all the books. And you can see we ended off in May at $21,845 average price. What happened in June and July? June actually went up a little bit. July came down a little bit, but overall still up by about $300. And that means a 1% increase since May. So Hulk #1 is kind of holding his own. When you look at the past 6 or 7 months, it's fairly stable. A little bit up, a little bit down, but pretty much the same price. So, strong book because it is more rare than the others, right? And it's a huge key. First appearance of the Incredible Hulk. So, how has it done overall since 2020? Still up 33%. Remember, this book was up, over 200%. When you look at where it started to where it hit its height, it was a $16,000 book, went all the way up to 44,000. Crazy. I don't know. Maybe that's not 200% up, but I mean, huge numbers. And now it's only 33% up, but holding strong. And the grades, only 4 grades sold over the past 2 months. So not a lot of movement on this book. And I think because people are worried about selling and people are worried about buying, right? They're torn on a big book like this. So 2 grades went up, 2 grades went down, which is probably why we see the trend remaining even on this. Okay, so Hulk #1 staying strong, at least for now. Next up, X-Men #1. You can see here, look at the past year and a half, a very slow decrease, but continuously decreasing, right? You see, after the huge correction here, it's just been methodically and slowly decreasing. So we ended in May at just about a $14,500 book. Here we go with June and July. June came in, another small drop. And then July, another drop again. This book dropping by almost $1,000 in average price. So down another 7% since May. And then overall, the book is still up 53% since 2020. So I don't know. This book probably has a ways to go, but keep in mind, right? These are only a handful of grades because these graphs, I have to take the grades that sold over the past 2 months and then take all the sales from those same grades all the way back to 2020. So each month I do these, it changes. The graph changes a little bit because there are different grades that sold, but the overall trends are usually pretty similar. Okay. And then let's look at the grades. So this kind of says it all, doesn't it? A lot of movement on this book, meaning a lot of books are being sold. And I think people are worried about the prices dropping on this book, and they want to try and make whatever money they can right now. And you can see almost everything is red, with the exception of the 3.0. Everything's dropping, even the 8.5, right? Those higher grades in these keys have been strong for the most part, but even a little bit of a drop there, and almost every other grade as well. So X-Men #1 continues its downward trend. All right, next up, Tales of Suspense #39. First appearance of Iron Man, Tony Stark. We had some big news about, well, maybe not Tony Stark, but the actor that played him, right? Maybe we'll talk more about that towards the end of the video here. That's a hint, by the way. So, all right, similar trend, although it's a little flatter, right? And probably has to do with the grades that were included. And then this high point here is because there was a massive sale. I don't remember what grade it was. I'll put it up on the screen though. But a massive sale on that grade in this month, December of 2022, and then quickly corrected when that grade sold again. It looks like the following month. All right, here we go. We ended in May, just under $30,000 as an average price. What happened in June and July? June came in, big drop, biggest drop we've seen in over a year on this graph here. So June, not a good month for Tales of Suspense 39. And then July came in up a little bit, so small recovery, but overall down almost $2,000, dropping 6% since May. And then overall, only 19% up since the beginning of 2020. Again, a lot of these books just continue their slow corrections going back to 2020 prices, getting very close to 2020 prices, and I don't know. Who knows? Will it go lower? We will see. All right, let's look at the individual grades. So some decent sales here, a 9.2 and a 9.0, both selling on this book, both dropping. So again, 8 grades sold, 5 of them went down, 3 of them went up. Look at that, 4.5 went up by 81%. I think the 4.5 that sold previous to that was, like ridiculously low. So it was expected that the 4.5 would bounce back. All right, so that 81% is a little misleading, but nonetheless, right? It was an increase. So there you go. So Tales of Suspense 39, Iron Man, still dropping. Okay, let's move on. Fantastic Four #1. Interesting graph here. It's a few steps, right? Some big sales and some big losses as well. But overall, over the past year, this book, even though it's very slowly dropping, it's pretty steady, but nonetheless, very slow decreases in price. We ended in May at just under $27,000 for an average price. Where did June come in? Well, it went up, and it went up a lot. So you can see some big sales in June, and then July, almost even, but slightly up as well. And the average price going up to $30,000, over $30,000, which is an increase of 12% since May. So one of the things that happened here is that there was a big sale. I believe the grade was an 8.5. And so we're going to show the graph the other way as well, right? If we just took out that 8.5, what would it look like? So overall, up 12% since May and up 12% since the beginning of 2020, which means that if we hadn't seen the increases over the past 2 months, this book would be even, at least with the set of grades that we had sell this month. And those grades are right here. And you can see the book that's really driving this average price increase is the 8.5 with a big increase, up by 23%. You can see all the other grades are kind of split. The 1.8 it had a sale, but it was essentially the same price as the previous sale. So, but here's what I like to do. I want to show what the graph would look like without the 8.5, just to show it both ways and show you what the chart looks like. So here's what it will look like, okay? The overall trend looks the same, like huge ups and then slow corrections over the past year and a half or so. But even the last 2 months would show decreases, right? June would have been a down point, and then July would have been almost even. So I think it's good to show it both ways. But nonetheless, right, we got to include the 8.5 because that's how I've been doing the analysis, and it is what it is. So it's up 12% since May, but just keep in mind what it would have looked like without that sale. All right. And then the last of the 6 books I've been doing before we get into the new book. Let's go to the King of the Silver Age, Amazing Fantasy 15, first appearance of Peter Parker as Spider-Man. We left off in May, and it was essentially a $29,000 book, and you can see this book's not sure what it wants to do, right? Even though it's been decreasing, there are a lot of ups and downs here. So what happened in June and July? The book slightly went up in June and then slightly went up in July again. So AF15 holding strong, an increase of about $250 on the average price. So 1%. Not a lot, but nonetheless, 1% increase since May. And then overall, up 50% since 2020. Again, big book. It's going to, if this book is going to keep correcting, it's going to be a long road and slow corrections as the months and years go by. Okay, so let's look at the grades. A lot of grades sold here. 8 different grades and almost split even, but 5 of them went up, 3 of them went down, which is why, we're seeing a small increase in the average sales price. So again, the King of the Silver Age remaining strong. And now it's time for our new book. All right, did a full price analysis on it. Here's a hint as to what it is.
We give you the one person who could play Victor Von Doom. Oh my God.
All right, so there you have it. Fantastic Four number 5, the first appearance of Dr. Doom. So this was not the book that I was planning to do as my newest entry into our Silver Age price analysis. And I'll get into that in a minute. I'm going to show you what's coming up after I finish this price analysis here. But I wanted to do it because obviously that was huge news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. Robert Downey Jr. coming back to the Marvel Universe, but this time as Dr. Doom. I'm not sure how they're going to do that, right? Is he going to be a completely different character and there's no notion of him as ever being Iron Man in an alternate universe or anything like that? Because they said he's going to be Victor Von Doom. He's not going to be Tony Stark in a different universe as a different character. So I don't know. We'll see how they do it. I'm kind of torn. Can't they come up with, some new blood and a new actor, some up-and-coming actor. So I don't know why we're using retreads. But that being said, he's a great actor, and for sure there's some excitement there. Even I was excited to hear that. But, again, I'm torn. We'll see what happens. All right, so here's how we're going to do Fantastic Four number 5. So I haven't done this price analysis before. I decided to skip the entire history here because it's the same trend, huge ups, huge corrections. But instead of ending it in May, I decided to end it in January of 24 so that we can see how this entire year has gone so far. All right. So in January, this book was an average price of all the grades combined that had sales of $5,743. Okay. So we're going to go from January all through the end of July. And what happened here, February came in, a huge increase. March, kind of a big decrease. April was a little bit up. May, a little bit up. June, a little bit down. And July, a little bit up. So overall, this book is up by about just under $500. So since the beginning of the year, this book is up 8%. And, mind you, this is before all the hype and the announcement. I think that announcement was on July 28th, but I don't think any of these sales from the July data point were after the 28th. And I can tell you a sneak peek at August sales, everything has increased. So again, this book is up 8% since January. even before the announcement. And overall, since 2020, this book is still up 73%. Very, very strong book. Extremely strong, even with the huge corrections that have happened over the past couple years. So when I do the Silver Age analysis 2 months from now, guaranteed the August data point is going to show a big increase. The question is, will September, because I always have 2 months of data, because I do 2 months in between videos, will September maintain the momentum? We know things start to cool off after the news and excitement kind of dies down. But this one might take a few months, right? Might not take just 2, might take 4 or 5 months before we see the trend start to go back the other way and see some slow corrections. Okay. Regardless, huge book, strong. Here are the grades, kind of half and half, exactly half and half. 4 grades went up, 4 grades went down, but the ups were much stronger than the downs, which is why we see the price continuing to increase. Okay. So that's it. We're doing 7 books now, and here's the summary. So 4 of the 4 of the 7 books had increases since the last time we looked at this. 3 of them went down, and then again for Amazing Spider-Man, when I showed the overall trend since 2020, I want to show both ways, right? So overall, it's down. But then when we take it from the lowest point in 2020, it's still up, but barely, okay? So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's what we've got coming up next. Again, right, here are the 6 books we've been doing since the beginning of these videos, and we just added a 7th, Fantastic Four number 5, first appearance Dr. Doom, and here's what's coming next. So in August, still this month, we're in August right now, I promise I'm going to get into Journey into Mr. 83, right? Maybe it'll be its own video. And then in September, we're going to add Avengers number 1. And then later in September, we're finally going to get into DC and do Showcase number 4, first appearance of Flash. I promised I would start doing DC books. So I've got a handful of them I'm going to do. By the way, I've started the price analysis on these books as well. But when the news came out from San Diego Comic-Con, I had to do a change and switch it up to Fantastic Four number 5. So I promise these books on the right are coming. It's just going to take a little time. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video. I like doing these. I like giving you some insight into what's going on in the hobby and the trends of prices so that you can make your own decisions on whether or not you think it's time to buy or maybe the right time is still later on down the road. Okay, leave me some comments, questions, whatever you want. I love talking with people. Until next time, have a great day.